Highlights of the 2015 South African Rally Championship is proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sassel and Dunlop. During the first round of the championship more than 6 weeks ago in KwaZulu-Natal, the battle lines had already been drawn, with former double champion Mark Cronje and his Ford getting the first punch in with a convincing victory over reigning champion Leroy Poulter in his Toyota, with the Volkswagen of youngster Henk Lateghan in hot pursuit. The new for 2015 scoring and point system rewards a victory more than in previous years, with 4 championship points now the difference between first and second positions. Cronje has 16 points to his name, 4 ahead of Leroy Poulter and 7 ahead of Henk Lateghan. Janelle de Villiers has 7 points, with Jabi van Niekerk on 6. But the 2015 season is only one event old, and what better way to get going than taking on round 2? And it's a big one. The Sassel Rally, or simply called the Sassel, is undoubtedly a highlight of the entire South African motorsport scene each year. And this year's edition will be the 24th version, supported by the Energy Giant. And besides putting up a spectacle for the rally fans, Sassel Energy is also very mindful of the legacy they leave behind once the rally is over, with a number of social responsibility programs aiming to uplift local communities. So the Sassel is the one that every driver dreams of winning, and if recent years are anything to go by, we once again can expect an intense battle between double champion Mark Cronje and reigning champion Leroy Poulter.
Yeah, I think the fight between myself and Leroy is going to be a challenge right the way through the year, so everybody can expect that.
And hopefully we can win this one, but it's going to be a bit tough, it's wet today.
Eyes will be on the battle of the champions, but you know what they say about 2 dogs fighting for a bone.
Now with the rain we've got a really good road position. First on the road is usually a good thing in the rain. We also got a new engine, so hopefully that will help us a bit.
Dakar legend Janelle de Villiers will be after another good result.
Always after a good result in every rally you start, and it's going to be tricky. This event is always a very tricky event.
And this will be the second outing for Jabi van Niekerk, with experienced Irishman Gordon Noble reading the notes.
Looking forward to it. Just it's a pity it rained. We did all the pace notes on the drive. Now it rains, and so we'll see how much is pickable. Yeah.
There'll most probably be extra pressure on the shoulders of the remaining Volkswagen drivers, seeing that their polos sport large Sassel stickers, and that on the Sassel Rally.
Definitely the pressure is always on when it comes to a home event, and sponsors event is very critical. We need to go out there with a good result.
We can only do our best and see what we can do.
The Premier S2000 class received a major boost on the Sassel, with former driver Theuns Huber making a comeback to the sport, Namibian Thilo Himmel finally getting his season underway, and youngster Ernie van der Walt making the step to the Premier class behind the wheel of a former factory Toyota Yaris. Another Namibian, in the form of Wilro Dippenaar, will no doubt mix it up with the front runners, while he'll be joined in the NRC4 class by the likes of Piet Bakkes and Rocky Reinecker. So the Sassel is the one that everyone wants to win most, in front of most spectators, in arguably the most beautiful part of the country, but also on probably the roughest and toughest rally roads that South Africa has to offer. And to make matters even worse, torrential rain in the hours before the much-anticipated start had turned the already tricky stages into a mud bath. And it's youngster Henk Lateghan who will have the honour of opening the wet roads ahead of reigning champion Leroy Poulter. Mark Cronje will attack from third on the road, followed by Jabi van Niekerk and the 2 Volkswagens of Gugu Zulu and Hans Weiss. Janelle de Villiers and Wilro Dippenaar will start in 7th and 8th respectively. This is the York Timbers plantation of Olifants Geraamte, 14 kilometres of muddy rally roads on the outskirts of Sabi. An honour but also a difficult task for Henk Latergan and Barry White to open the road behind the wheel of their Volkswagen SASOL racing polo. And 2 minutes later, it's the turn of Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee to drop the hammer inside the Castrol Toyota Yaris. Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton have won the SASOL many times and set off in their quest to repeat the feat, followed by the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta of Japie van Niekerk and Gordon Noble. Up ahead, Henk Latergan was the first to stop the clock on 10 minutes and 42 seconds, but the Yaris of Poulter crossed the flying finish in a time of 10 minutes and 35 seconds, a full 7 seconds quicker. So Poulter laid down the gauntlet, but the number 24 Fiesta of Cronje would have none of it. 10 minutes and 34 seconds, less than a second between the two arch-rivals. The trio of Cronje, Poulter and Latergan already made it clear that they were going to be the ones to beat, with the rest trying to chase them down. Best of the rest on stage one was Castrol Toyota's Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan, with a time of 10 minutes 54 seconds, 3 seconds quicker than Japie van Niekerk and his new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta. Wilro Dippenaar and Kes Naidu opened their account with the 6th quickest time of all, with the PZN panel beaters Auris well ahead of newcomer Ernie van der Bolt, with veteran navigator Greg Godridge in the hot seat of the Vecto Petroleum Toyota Yaris. And it seemed like a very cautious start by the two Volkswagen SASOL racing polos of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant and the sister car of Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris. Stage 1 was, however, child's play compared to what lay ahead on stages 2 and 3. At 30 and 25 kilometres respectively, the stages at Grootfontein and at the Driekop sawmill near the towns of Pilgrim's Rest and Graskop presented a huge challenge and could very well have decided the result of the entire rally. It's Henk Latergan with Barry White reading the notes on the treacherous stage 2 inside the Volkswagen SASOL racing polo, who ventured into the stage from first on the road, followed by the Castrol Toyota Yaris of champions Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee. Another 2 minutes later, it was the turn of former champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton in the number 24 Ford Fiesta. Up ahead, Latergan was negotiating the tricky conditions and approaching the end of the stage. He crossed the flying finish with the benchmark time of 21 minutes 38 seconds, despite driving the last 5 kilometres with a flat tyre. Back in the mountains above Pilgrim's Rest, Leroy Poulter also found the going tough and slippery, but the champion recovered to stop the clock on 21 minutes 43 seconds.
We went off right in the beginning and got stuck, we couldn't get out.
This was the Ford Performance Fiesta of Mark Cronje in full flight just before stopping the clock at a time of 21 minutes 26 seconds, or 12 seconds quicker than the rest. It was still very early days, but as predicted, the SASOL rally had already turned into a three-way fight between Henk Latergan, Leroy Poulter and Mark Cronje, and the trend continued on stage 3. Again, it was Latergan and White who set the target time of 16 minutes and 11.7 seconds on the 25 kilometres of wet gravel roads near the Driekop sawmill, with the Castrol Toyota of Poulter and Coetzee in hot pursuit. Poulter's overall advantage over the VW youngster was a mere 2 seconds, but his time on stage 3 was a full 10 seconds off the pace, allowing the young man to slip past the champion on the overall leaderboard. But all of that was for second place, because Mark Cronje continued his winning ways by claiming yet another stage victory, his third in succession. It was only by 0.2 of a second, but enough to maintain his grip at the top spot of the leaderboard. Behind the leading trio, the SASOL was turning into a good event for Japie van Niekerk and Gordon Noble. The Irishman must have felt right at home on these muddy roads as he helped to steer the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta into a comfortable 4th position overall, nearly half a minute ahead of the chasing pack. The chasing pack consisted mainly of Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan in the second of the Castrol Toyotas, and the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris. De Villiers had the upper hand after stage 2, but Zulu set a blistering pace on stage 3 to move past the Dakar hero on the overall standings. Behind them, the Dutch and Belgian pairing of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant was struggling to find a rhythm down in 7th overall, while the older specification PZN and North City panel beaters Oris of Wilro Dippenaar was leading the NRC4 Challenge and in 8th overall. Early days, but with a tough few stages under the belt, it's the name of Cronje that topped the standings with a 19-second advantage over Lateghan. Poulter was a further 8 seconds back, with Japie van Niekerk the best of the rest, comfortably ahead of Zulu, who rounded out the top 5. And finally, a chance to clean off some of the mud in the Dunlop Service Park and time to reflect on the three-way battle that raged at the top. Lateghan found himself in second position.
We haven't had a clean stage yet, and to lie in second with all those problems is not bad.
And with a lead of nearly 20 seconds, Marc Renier was exactly where he wanted to be.
Yeah, we are, but it's a bit of a lottery, to be honest, and I think it's not easy out there.
Stage 4 and 5 were the same 2 stretches of muddy roads that were used as stages 2 and 3 just an hour ago. Crews would therefore be aware of all the dangers, which in itself could be dangerous, as they now believed that they could go even faster. But the conditions did not allow them to go any quicker. It was now so treacherous that Marc Renier's time on stage 4 was more than a minute slower than when the roads were used as stage 2. But it mattered little, as it was still fast enough to record his 4th successive stage victory. Behind Cronje, it was Leroy Poulter who steadied the ship by turning the tables on Lateghan. Poulter was only 5 seconds slower than Cronje, but 12 seconds faster than Lateghan to shoot back past the young man and into second on the overall standings. Poulter clearly had the bit between his teeth on this loop of stages, as the reigning champion finally managed to break Cronje's winning streak by setting the fastest time of all on stage 5. Perhaps Cronje felt that he had done enough on day 1, as the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Henk Lateghan also went a few seconds quicker than the Ford of Cronje, but the differences were marginal and did little to affect the overall leaderboard. Cronje was still well in control, with Poulter second and Lateghan breathing down his neck. Together with co-driver Gordon Noble, Japie van Niekerk kept his head down and remained the best of the rest in his new Africa Development Ford Fiesta to stay in control of his 4th position overall. In fact, van Niekerk extended his advantage over 5th place. And the 5th place in question belonged to the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris. But the Castrol Toyota Yaris of Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan was slowly reeling them in. De Villiers closed to within 5 seconds after stage 4, and on stage 5 he shot past Zulu and back up into 5th. Things were about to get worse for the Volkswagen squad when Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant slipped off the road and into retirement on stage 4. They escaped unharmed, but it was the end of the road for the Flying Dutchman.
I wanted to turn in for a fast left one, and it was so slippy. I just slid off a little bit. I was out of the track and couldn't get it back on the road again. We got stuck, and that was it. So
the demise of Weiss allowed the PZN panel beaters Oris of Wilro Dippenaar to slide into 7th overall and the lead of the NRC4 class, ahead of the Yaris of Ernie van der Walt and the Polo of Thilo Himmel. It was the end of the day's gravel, should that read mud racing. And with 4 fastest times out of 5, it was still the name of Marc Renier who topped the leaderboard. Leroy Poulter was 26 seconds back, or 10 ahead of Henk Lateghan, with Japie van Niekerk and Janelle de Villiers in 4th and 5th respectively. The sun was setting over the Dunlop Service Park, but the day's racing was far from over. Marc Renier was still pleased with his performance so far.
Having the lead going into the Tarmac stuff, I'm very chuffed about that.
Leroy Poulter had it all to do, while Henk Lateghan was still in 3rd.
few moments in the last one, 2 overshoots. So considering everything, it's quite a good day.
You know, let's see, we've got 2 task stages. Maybe we can close the gap up a bit.
Besides the beautiful scenery of Mpumalanga, the Sassel Rally is also all about the spectacle for the thousands of loyal rally fans who line the streets of Sabi and White River each year to get up close and personal with their heroes. These are the traditional Sabi and White River stages that are running total darkness and on the tarmac in the hearts of the 2 respective towns. At less than 1 kilometre in distance each, these 2 stages are very short, so they offer little in terms of opportunities to try and beat the opposition. But with many pavements lurking about the dark corners, drivers had everything to lose. And it was Marc Renier who recorded yet another 2-stage victories by conquering the streets of Sabi and White River, but it only helped to extend his overall advantage by a few seconds, as times were very close. Many things define each year's Sassol Rally, and this is one of them. The Saturday morning running of the very famous Nelspruit Super Special at the Spaghetti Junction in front of thousands of people. It's a super special stage, which means that 2 evenly matched cars race each other over different loops of the same course, often resulting in a nail-biting finish. And what a way to start the day's action with a duel between rivals Marc Renier and Leroy Poulter. And as always, it was a close one, but it was Cronier's Ford who got the upper hand by narrowly edging out the Toyota driven by Poulter. Next up was the race between Henk Latergan and Jaapie van Niekerk. This fight had all the makings to be an epic one, but Latergan lost control of his polo on the wet tarmac and spun out. After a vital few seconds, Latergan managed to restart the polo and got going again, but this placed him right in the path of the fast-approaching Ford Fiesta with disastrous consequences. Both crews were shaken but escaped serious injury, allowing them to further discuss the reasons for the accident. But the same couldn't be said of especially the Fiesta, which suffered extensive damage.
The car ahead of us had spun and he was making some sort of U-turn and he drove out ahead of us, and Jaapie made excellent work to not to hit him head on nor crash into the people that were standing beside the road.
I'm just really glad nobody got injured. It could have been a lot worse. There were a lot of spectators next to the road there.
It was a stern reminder of just exactly how dangerous motorsport can be, and a lucky escape for both the teams, but even more importantly for the hundreds of rally fans who fortunately were all unharmed. With the Ford very much stuck on the stage, the organisers had no choice but to cancel the stage and move on to stage 9 at the Mbombela Stadium. At 1.5 kilometres, it was another of those short stages aimed at providing a spectacle, and for the umpteenth time it was Marc Renier who did not disappoint by claiming another stage win in his Fiesta, closely followed by the Toyota of Leroy Poulter and the remaining Volkswagen of Gugu Zulu. Fortunately for the large crowd that was still present at the Nelspruit Super Special, the circus returned for the running of stage 10. And this time, the fans were treated to top-class racing. In what looked like an exact replay, it was Marc Renier who once again managed to pip his rival Leroy Poulter, this time by a mere 1.5 seconds. With the demise of both Henk Latergan and Jaapie van Niekerk, the battle between the Castrol Toyota Yaris of Geniel de Villiers and the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Gugu Zulu was now also in a battle for the final podium position. De Villiers won this little fight by 2 seconds. And the impressive debut by Ernie van der Walt in the Vecto Petroleum Toyota Yaris continued with a victory over the much older PZN panel beaters Auris of Wilbro Dippenaar on the streets of Nelspruit. But Dippenaar was well in control of 5th place overall. With the drama of tarmac racing a thing of the past, it was time to return to the York Timbers plantations and forests for the day's remaining stages. The rain had somewhat subsided, but the roads were still very wet and slippery, and the crews had to tackle stages 11 and 12 on the trot, or nearly 40 kilometres in total. Youngster Ernie van der Walt did not pick the easiest of rallies to make the move to the Premier S2000 class, But with the help of the very experienced co-driver Greg Godridge, the Vector Petroleum driver was doing a good job of keeping the Yaris on the road. Until this happened. Fortunately, both were unharmed and will live to fight another day. The young man's demise made room for another young man in the form of Namibian Thilo Himmel in his Volkswagen Polo. Together with Armand de Toy, the pairing found their feet in their first outing of 2015 to move up into 6th position. Ahead of Himmel, another young Namibian was also making steady progress. Wilro Dippenaar had been struggling with clutch and a few other issues since early on in the event, but the talented driver kept the PZN and North City panel beaters Aurus in one piece and comfortably held on to their current 5th place. Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris found themselves in 4th position overall and a full 53 seconds behind a podium position at the start of the day's gravel action. So the Volkswagen Sassel racing driver had every intention to close the gap. But the man in the current 3rd position was none other than Janelle de Villiers. And de Villiers was not going to give it up without a fight. And at the very top, it was becoming very clear that the men on form were rally leaders and winners of just about every stage so far, Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton. Reigning champions Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee threw caution to the wind in a valiant effort to stop the Cronje steamroller. But on this occasion, the Castrol Toyota Yaris could not keep up with the Ford Performance Fiesta as Cronje won another 2 stages to extend his overall lead to a comfortable 44 seconds. Proof of Cronje's lead at the top, with Poulter leading his teammate de Villiers in 2nd and 3rd respectively. Gugu Zulu moved up to 4th, while Wilro Dippenaar rounded out the top 5. Just 2 real gravel stages remained, and in the end, it was the Volkswagen Polo of Thilo Himmel and Armand de Toy who survived a tough Sassel rally to claim the points that come with a 5th place finish. And 4th overall was just reward for a great effort that saw Wilro Dippenaar and Kes Naidu nurse their PZN panel beaters Aurus over the finish line. And with it came the victory in the NRC4 class. But back to the all-important podium positions. With just a few stages to go, Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan were well on target to claim the final step of the coveted Sassel Rally podium. But it wasn't to be. The engine endured more punishment than it could take and cried enough, forcing de Villiers to tumble down the leaderboard. After what can only be described as a weekend filled with character building for the Volkswagen Sassel racing squad, Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris were more than happy to inherit the 3rd position previously occupied by de Villiers. Zulu did not make any mistakes and was on course for his best ever result. But what about the fight for first? If Leroy Poulter had any intention to try and close such a large gap in just 2 stages, those plans disappeared out the window halfway through the penultimate stage when the Castrol Toyota Yaris picked up a problem.
No, we've got a problem. I think let's rush our problem.
With the threat of Poulter removed from the equation, Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton continued to do what they did best all weekend long, and that was to win stages en route to another emphatic victory. This was the final obstacle in the way of the remaining crews and Sassel Rally glory. The traditional blast around the Nelspruit showgrounds, much to the delight of thousands of fans. The less than 500 metres of special stage distance did not hold any surprises, except for Gugu Zulu, who broke Cronje's stage-winning streak. 3rd place overall for the fastest brother in Africa. And a sigh of relief as Leroy Poulter nursed his broken Yaris over the finish line for a fine 2nd position. But the Sassel was all about the Ford crew of Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton, who claimed a flag-to-flag victory. 12 stage wins in the end and a large victory margin for Mark Cronje over Leroy Poulter with Gugu Zulu in 3rd. Wilro Dippenaar recorded a fine 4th ahead of fellow Namibian Thilo Himmel. Time for Sassel to reflect on yet another successful event.
As the title sponsor of this particular event, we are indeed proud and particularly appreciative of what the organisers put together. I think they've lived up to the expectation.
And this was what it was all about, the sweet taste of victory champagne on the Sassel Rally podium. And what a time for Gugu Zulu to taste it.
It's been a long time coming. It's been 12 years of racing, and finally we're in S2000 and we managed to get onto the podium.
Second was probably not what Leroy Poulter had in mind, but it's still a good result for the champion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's points. You know, we need that. It's still early days of the championship.
And a very dominant performance by Mark Ronier, who led from flag to flag.
The nice thing is that we have the momentum going forward, and everybody's on top of their game at the moment, so we hope we can just keep building on this.
We stay in Mpumalanga for round 3 of the championship, but we move to the Highveld and the new to the championship Secunda Rally on the 15th and 16th of May. See you there. Highlights of round 2 of the South African Rally Championship was proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sassel and Dunlop.